I chose wind erosion. My diorama shows a beach and big rocks that broke up into different shapes. During wind erosion, first the wind blows, next the wind blows harder, then the wind stops blowing, and then the rock changes shape a little, and then the wind starts blowing again. Finally, a lot of the rock gets carried away and the rock changes shape a lot.
I chose ice erosion. My diorama shows ice cracking a rock and the rock falling during ice erosion. First it rains. Next the rain falls in the rock. Then the ice expands. Finally the rock breaks and falls.
I chose ice erosion. My diorama shows ice breaking a rock. During ice erosion, first it rains into the rock. Next, there became ice in the rock. Then the ice gets bigger and bigger inside the rock. And then the ice cracks the rock and it is about to crack. Finally, the rock breaks into pieces.
I chose water erosion. My diorama shows water taking sand away from the beach. During water erosion, first the waves hit the beach, next part of the hill is gone. The water flows through the open part, and then the beach is smaller.
I did water erosion. My diorama shows rain filling up a river. The rocks are being pulled into the river during water erosion. It rains. Next, the river pulls the rocks down the river. Rocks break and get pulled down the river.
I chose wind erosion. My diorama shows wind breaking rocks. During wind erosion, rocks get broken down into small pieces. First, wind blows against rocks. Next, it makes different shapes. Then it makes rock formations and structures. Finally, the rocks eventually break.
I chose ice erosion. My diorama shows ice breaking down a rock into little pieces. During ice erosion, first it will rain. Next, the rain freezes inside the rock. Then the ice expands in the rock, and then ice cracks the rock. Finally, the rock cracks into little pieces.
I chose water erosion. My diorama shows a waterfall breaking up rocks and rocks falling down. During water erosion, first it rains, next it becomes a waterfall. Then the waterfall breaks up rocks, and then the rocks fall. Finally, the stream takes the rocks with it.
I chose water erosion. My diorama shows it's raining and it's causing a flood. The flood breaks apart the rocks during watering. It rains and it causes floods. Then it breaks apart the rocks and moves them away.
I chose water erosion. My diorama shows rocks and water falling down a waterfall during water erosion. The waterfall on the rocks and it breaks the rocks into tiny pieces. I chose ice erosion. My diorama shows rain freezing in a rock and the rock breaking. During ice erosion, first it rains, next the rain gets in the rock. Then the rain freezes it in the rock. The ice cracks and the rock breaks.
My diorama shows a waterfall that is breaking pieces of a mountain and breaking the mountain apart. During water erosion, first there is a waterfall. Next, the waterfall loosens the rock. Then the rocks are breaking and separate. Finally, the rocks go down the waterfall. As we see here.
I choose ice erosion. During ice erosion, the ice is water. It goes inside the rock and freezes. The ice expands, then the rock freezes. My diorama shows that the water freezes. When the water freezes, it expands. The rock gets larger and freezes and cracks the rock.
I chose water erosion. My diorama shows water breaking apart rocks into little bits of rocks and bringing it back into the water. During water erosion, first it rains, then the waves get bigger and take the rocks away, and the rocks get even smaller. I chose water erosion. My diorama shows the waves bringing in the rocks. During water erosion, the waves bring up the rocks. I also put houses on the side. Water erosion makes the beach smaller. My diorama shows water erosion. My diorama has water breaking the rock. Waves are hitting the rock. When the waves hit the rock, it breaks into small pieces.
I chose water erosion. My diorama shows waves splashing a sandcastle to the ground. During water erosion, first waves splashing on the beach. Next, the sandcastle gets crushed into
to keep the sandcastle. Finally, the beach goes into the water.
My diorama shows ice breaking apart. During ice erosion, first it rains. The rain gets inside the rock. Next, the rain falls in the rock and falls. Then the ice makes the rock expand. The ice makes the rock crack. Finally, the ice in the rock breaks apart the rock.
I chose water erosion. My diorama shows that the waves are taking away the sand. The waves hit the beach during water erosion. The waves take away the sand. Waves crash on the sand beach. The beach gets smaller.
I chose water erosion. My diorama shows water waves from a waterfall breaking the rock apart. During water erosion, it rains. Next, waves break the rock off. Then water moves the rock. Finally, waves break the rock into pieces.
I chose water erosion. My diorama shows a hill getting taken away with water. During erosion, first it rains. Next, the water gets on the hill. Then the water brings rock down. Finally, the hill gets out of shape.
I chose water erosion. My diorama shows waves hitting the beach and breaking the land on water erosion. First, there are waves. Next, the waves hit the beach. Then it takes away the sand. Finally, it takes the sand in the water.
I chose wind erosion. My diorama shows a tropical island with sand and water. During wind erosion, the wind comes. Next, the wind hits an island full of sand. Then the wind picks up the sand. Last, the wind moves the sand into the water.